Talking facts, I'm known to keep it real. I ain't worried about your feelings when I'm in the field. They be watching what I do from my highlight reel. I'm just running to the paper, fuck how you feel. If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. Shout out to the crew and they get real, real. Find me with the crew, nigga, real.
What is up, everybody? It is real. It is true. We are back 2 times for you talking about week 2 of fantasy football. How's everybody doing, fellas?
Great. Chilling.
That's good. That's good. Listen, we're doing this for you guys, and we're doing it for us. We really enjoy being here. We really enjoy shooting this podcast for you guys. We really enjoy talking about fantasy football. It's what we love doing, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're going to hit you with 2 shows a week now. One on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, coming out Wednesdays, and one coming out Thursday morning to get you set up for the Thursday night game and week 2. So speaking of that, going right into it, some stuff happened between our last show and this show. Speaking about injuries, some injuries that we were watching and other injuries that just came up. Trav, what you got for us?
Yeah, well, team started back practicing on Wednesday, and so I'm going to run through some of the DNPs or the did not practice players that we had that you need to keep an eye on that are fantasy relevant. So first, we'll start off with Austin Eckler. He's a DNP as of Wednesday with an ankle injury. We're watching that one closely. Obviously, if you have Joshua Kelly, he gets a bump up if Eckler does not play. But as of Wednesday, Austin Eckler did not practice. DeAndre Hopkins, dealing with an ankle, did not practice on Wednesday. Jacoby Myers, still in concussion protocol. He also did not practice. Aaron Jones with the hammy. He's going to be nursing that for a while. We'll see what his status is if he doesn't play. Same thing with Eckler and Joshua Kelly. You give A.J. Dillon a bump in that offense. Raheem Mostert didn't practice on Wednesday, but this one sounds like it was just a veteran rest day. Doesn't seem like it's too big of an issue. They're calling it a knee thing, but also they're just saying it's rest. So we'll see how that goes. Christian Watson, another Packer update, did not practice as of Wednesday. He's still dealing with that hammy. I'd be kind of shocked at this point if he gave it a go for this week. Maybe look forward to him returning week 3 and getting back to practice during that week. Darren Waller didn't practice with the hammy. Again, they're saying it's a rest thing, but we know that it's an issue with him. It's a reoccurring issue with him. So just keep that one in mind as we progress throughout the week. Brandon Cooks, as of about 10 minutes ago, it was clarified that his knee issue that he's dealing with that kept him out of practice on Wednesday is officially diagnosed as a sprained MCL. So, that's Thursday, or as of today's Thursday. It's a sprained MCL. So, not sure he's going to give it a go. That one typically takes a while, but we'll see how Brandon Cooks is feeling as the week progresses. And Devontae Adams did not practice as of Wednesday with an ankle injury. So that is both of the Raiders starting receivers, Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams, that did not get work in yesterday. And on the brighter side of things, we were told earlier this week that Jerry Jeudy did a bit of a pregame workout thing last week before the Broncos week 1 matchup against the Raiders. He got some limited work in yesterday, so he's looking like he may make his return this week, which is he'd be coming back in a much shorter time frame than originally anticipated. And that wraps up everybody that didn't practice Wednesday. I'll kind of corral that into the Thursday night game and some key things that we need to watch out for before we begin talking for that about that matchup. Running back Kenny Gainwell is out tonight with a rib injury. So to me, if you have DeAndre Swift, this is the time to play him while they're man down in that backfield, that committee that you just can't stand. Right. Rashad Penny more than likely won't be a healthy scratch, a healthy inactive tonight as well. So I'm not sure if I'm playing him yet. I think DeAndre Swift is the one you want to play. And then some other fantasy relevant implications, but not fantasy players that are going to be out. Cornerback James Bradbury for the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be out. Darius Slay is the one that shadows Justin Jefferson when these two teams play. He gave Justin Jefferson hell last year. Bradbury would have been responsible for Addison. So now Addison gets Avonte Maddox and inexperienced Josh Jobe as the corners that'll be matching up with him. So maybe Addison could have another big game similar to his week 1 output. And then center Garrett Bradbury is going to be out for the Vikings. And that's a big deal when you're missing your starting center against a D-line like Philadelphia. So Madison, I'd be a little concerned with maybe not having as big of a game as he did week 1, even though it was only 13.4. I could kind of foresee a single-digit performance from Madison with that injury. So just something to keep an eye out on before the game.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look at. Madison being the RB1 for the Vikings, talking about a single digit game is definitely something to pay attention to. Maybe you have somebody else that you feel more comfortable with starting this week. Maybe somebody that showed out week 1, and you can go ahead and elevate him. Somebody that probably was part of some of these committees that we talked about the last episode that are the committees are working out for them. Both players are putting up double digit points. So these are things to definitely look at going into Thursday night's game.
Yeah, because I got Addison. So a little bump up Addison. I'll take that one. Also, it might be a kicker thing because when centers are a lot of cause for false starts and things like that. So
Yeah.
you get
Could set the
nervous trying
offense
to
back a bit.
you get nervous
Mhm.
trying to snap that ball right, and you get thrown offside. So you might see some good action from Greg Joseph as a kicker.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's a pretty good point.
But
No, excellent point. But I mean, speaking about this Thursday night game, where are our points? We're talking about the kicker. Where are the points going to be? Are we just hoping Jefferson continues to be Jefferson? Is Kirk Cousins going to be a healthy start in fantasy relevance, or something that we should be careful with playing him against the Philadelphia defense that gave a little bit of trouble last week? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I want to point out last year when Jefferson played the Eagles, he only had 10 points.
Yeah.
Setting a note. So he was kind of on lockdown mode last
Yeah.
year during that game. So that's something to definitely look out for. I would definitely look for maybe Addison and Osborne to come in vulturing points off these two.
Yeah.
Osborne was
I
kept
would say,
vulturing
man.
points last weekend.
I would say Darius Slay, he gave Justin Jefferson hell last year when they played in week 2, and they're playing again in week 2, ironically. But when they played last year in week 2, Justin Jefferson was wide receiver 42 that week. And that is not what you drafted him to be. So Darius Slay and the Philadelphia defense, they all deserve credit, but Darius Slay as well. They know how to get to him. He still saw 12 targets in that game, so they were still trying to get him the ball, but trying to no avail because Kirk Cousins was also quarterback 25 that week, and he threw 3 interceptions. So he did a lot of trying to force the ball to Justin Jefferson, playing from behind. He makes mistakes. We know the story the storyline with primetime Kirk Cousins and how he can't perform in those games.
Right, and
But
last week he didn't look incredible. He didn't look amazing. He kind of
yeah,
salvaged there at the end because he had to come back in that game. But
yeah,
they didn't look good. I mean, once again, a lot of these teams didn't look good. It was week 1. We can't put weight too heavily on week 1, but a lot of these people didn't look good.
yeah.
I mean,
Being that
2022 is behind us, but just he was 6 for 6 receptions out of 12 targets, 48 yards, and he had basically 8 yards per 4 yards per target. So
yeah,
just
it was a
setting a
rough
note.
one. And I think it could be a rough one again, honestly, because this is a bad matchup for the Vikings in general, especially coming off a loss to Tampa Bay, where you were kind of expected to put up some points, put up some numbers against the Tampa Bay defense. And I know Todd Bowles is a good defensive-minded coach, yada yada, but that shouldn't have been enough to only put up 17. That's a matchup that was in their favor. Now they're going against a Philadelphia team. I believe that game's in Philadelphia. It's not a good look.
So I know we're talking a lot about the Vikings in this game rather. We're a little weary about some of the points there. What about the Eagles? Are we weary the entire game? Are we just kind of like, this is not the best fantasy point game this week? Or is Jalen Hurts going to give us some points? AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. What are we looking at there?
Let me just sound off a little bit for you here. Jalen Hurts last year against the Vikings was 26 for 31, 333 yards, a touchdown, 1 interception. He had a fumble, but he had 2 TDs rushing. 33 points against Minnesota last year.
Yeah. Finished as quarterback 3 that week.
That right there says something. I know it's a new year, but that speaks volumes. And they had
And
game.
the Eagles are
Pardon?
home. The Eagles are playing at home, correct?
Believe
Correct,
so.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so there you go. I mean, I don't see anybody sitting Hurts anyways, unless you have
yeah, no,
a crazy quarterback room in your fantasy team. So Jalen Hurts,
favorable
something to be
matchup.
excited about tonight, something to look
Yeah.
at. Getting those points up. Who's going to be his guy? We're leaning more towards AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. What do you think he's going to be fiending
Uh,
for today?
I'll call my shot on Devontae Smith.
All right.
Uh, Last year's game, it was also Devontae Smith who finished as wide receiver 25 in that week 2 matchup.
Okay.
AJ Brown finished as wide receiver 39. But last year doesn't matter. This is this year. This is still a defense that can easily be picked on. I mean, they don't have a true standout anywhere in that secondary anymore. So I would call my shot on Devontae Smith tonight. I think that in due time, we'll kind of see that he may low key be the real wide receiver one in Philadelphia.
Good
yeah,
things to look at for our Thursday night game, which will be on tonight. Once again, go ahead in the comments right now. Add who you think is going to be the guy Jalen Hurts is going to look for tonight. Or even maybe let's do it this way. Which receiver in tonight's game is going to put up the most points? We got Justin Jefferson on one end, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith on the other.
Yep.
We have a couple people in that game that are going to put points. Comment right now before the game starts who you think is going to be the top fantasy scorer in tonight's Thursday night game. What do we
yeah.
got going on next?
We got week 2 in its entirety, basically.
Yeah.
It looks like we got some good 1:00 games, some possible get right games, and
Yeah.
some toss up games. See what's going on. So a get right game possibly for Josh Allen this
Yeah.
week, playing
Yep.
playing the Raiders. So that's something to look forward to.
3 receptions is something that you got to say, hey, I'm not that guy. I'm the
Yeah.
guy. I am who you thought I was.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to look out to. I believe Garoppolo he's dealing with a little something over there.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
something
Ankle injury for Garoppolo.
something to watch out for. So definitely, possibly a good get right game for Josh Allen this week compared to that game he had last week against the Jets. That
Okay.
Jets defense.
For me this week, I'm looking at that Seattle Detroit matchup. There's a lot of fantasy points to be had in that one with David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker, Geno Smith, Jared Goff. I mean, there's so much talent in that game. And I want to see Seattle kind of get back on track, right? They have a lot of players on their offense that held high value in fantasy drafts. You were drafting Kenneth Walker in that 3rd, 4th round range. You were drafting DK Metcalf, 3rd, 4th round range. Tyler Lockett, everybody looked at as a value. Jackson Smith and Jigba, people know he's going to pop. We just don't know when. And they had a really rough outing against the Los Angeles Rams in week 1. DK Metcalf was still able to find the end zone for a touchdown. But I want to see the rest of this offense kind of get going. Kenneth Walker only played about 67% of the snaps. It didn't do too much with that. I want to see how this backfield shapes out. And I want to see if Geno can get this offense back on track.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
That's definitely one to look at. I think that's a good one. And for me, I'm looking at another team that we looked at that I mentioned last week, and it's the Chargers at Tennessee. They put up a lot of points. They're loving those receivers. Let's see if these new guys in fantasy relevance put up these same points and be as effective as they were last week. So I look for another high scoring game there. The Chargers are high power offense, even if Eckler is out. I see a lot of points in that game as well, just like as last week. And going back to that, there's some games that you kind of want to be weary of and be a little careful on. The Jets Dallas game is one, two very high power defenses right now, and we're probably going to see a lot of sacks on both ends, a few interceptions maybe on both ends. So that's a game that maybe you stay. I know you got your Garrett Wilson, you got your Brees Hall. I mean, Brees Hall will probably be your best bet in that game, besides if you're sticking with the defenses, assuming the defenses are going to be scoring the points for this game. So are there any games that you are weary of this week?
I think that's a good one to talk about, the Jets and
Yeah.
Cowboys, because obviously Garrett Wilson takes the hit with no Aaron Rodgers. CeeDee Lamb is going to be dealing with Sauce Gardner. That's an interesting one. But CeeDee Lamb in week 1 only had 11, I believe 11.7 fantasy points. If you do the decimal scoring, they didn't need him in that game. I mean, it was 26-0 before halftime. Like, you could have fell asleep, woke up, the
Hmm.
score ended 40-0, and it had nothing to do with anybody on the offense outside of Tony Pollard. That was all the Dallas defense. I'm not sure it's going to be that same situation. I think they are going to need to use CD now, and what should be, I want to say, a close game just based off the defenses alone. I
Right.
think Dallas inevitably wins it, maybe even by 2 scores, like a 10-point game. But I think they're going to need CeeDee Lamb a lot more. And now it's likely that they won't have Brandon Cooks because he's dealing with that sprained MCL. So
True.
Pollard and CeeDee Lamb are going to be the focal points. I think Pollard is kind of matchup proof, honestly, in my opinion. He seems like just a back that you can get involved in any way, almost like an Austin Eckler. Like,
Right.
I'm
We're
ready
gonna,
to
we're
start
gonna
talking
see we're
about
gonna
Tony
see a
Pollard
lot of
like
running
that.
that game. We're gonna see a lot of
Yeah,
running
for
that
sure.
game to stay away from the sacks and interceptions.
For me, it's going to be Baltimore and Cincinnati. It's not
Okay.
a stay. It's not a stay away game, but it's one to look at. Like, are these gonna be a get right game for these guys? Are we gonna get a shootout, or is it gonna be a low scoring game because Lamar didn't do too hot last week,
Yeah.
and
How'd Burrow do?
Burrow did even worse. He wasn't
Burrow
so
did,
cool last week.
yeah.
He wasn't the guy.
Based off points, he did half as good. Lamar had 6.5 and Burrow
Yeah.
had like 3.18 or something. So
Well, I think that's an excellent one to point out, Bruce, because you look at that game and you're like, there's points there. There's gonna be
Yeah.
points there. But it's something to maybe raise concerns. Let's see what happens week 2. Let's see if some of these week 1 issues was just week 1 jitters, or are we gonna have to start looking at some of our high-end, high-value players that we're gonna have to say, hey, maybe I need to find someone on the waiver wire just in case they continue flopping, and
Yeah.
something. I think that's an excellent game. I didn't even think about that at all.
Yeah.
That's an excellent game to look at and say we're hoping for the best. Now, listen, guys, we're still in week 2. We're not saying that anybody should sit any of these players that were bad last week, especially your high value,
Mhm.
high early round pick players. We're not saying to sit these guys, but something to pay attention to and something to start looking into, watching our show, listening to our waiver wire pickups, listening to adjustments and other players that you can input here and other players that you should start upgrading on your roster. Get them ready. Tell them, hey, you're coming off the bench soon. Maybe just get them ready and just be weary. Just be weary. And if you have another low scoring week, we're sorry. We can't control that. All we could do is give you the best advice we can possible.
I mean, another note, something that you want to look at, Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews did practice this week, so there's a possibility he gets back. So that might be, I don't know if it's a game time decision.
That should be good. That should be
something that you want to look out for.
Good input.
Yeah, I think we can safely say that we don't expect Jamar Chase to only have 8.9 points again. And I'm willing to bet everything I own, which isn't a lot, that T. Higgins doesn't get a donut again. In fact, I think this is a situation where T. Higgins may be the one that gets the first touchdown of the Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers, only because when a guy has 0 catches for 0 yards, even though he got the 8 targets, typically they want to get him involved right away, like kind of just correct the errors that occurred in week 1. So I think he's more likely to force that touchdown. I kind of called the shot like that with Calvin Ridley. I was in the first episode. I was like, hey, it's his first game with them. They're going to want to try to get him in the end zone. Now, his touchdown wasn't forced. It was just a great play. But I think we'll see something like that where they're going to want to get T. Higgins involved immediately just to not keep him disinterested. And it's a contract year. So eventually he's going to get popping. He'll get his 1,000 yards, maybe 6 to 7 touchdowns like he normally does. But I want to call my shot on T. Higgins this week.
Okay. You want to know how many points T. Higgins had last year against Baltimore?
Go for it.
They played him twice, so tell me.
All right, well, you want to know how many points he had the first game against Baltimore?
Yeah, let me know.
A donut.
Really?
I'm not kidding.
He said it. He already said he's going to bet everything he had. He can't fall back on that.
Do you want to know how many points he had the second time he played Baltimore?
I want to take a guess. I'm going to say 7.8 or something.
1 point.
Jesus Christ, Christopher Higgins, what are we doing, man?
We'll edit it out. We'll edit it out,
Yeah,
Travis.
yeah,
Go ahead and make
take
another. No, I'm
take
just kidding.
take it out, take it out.
That is scary, dude.
Oh man,
That's scary. Like
yeah.
we're talking about. All right, and in the first game of the season, he saw 16% of the snaps. In the second game, he saw 85
Okay.
and only 1.7 points. That's scary.
That's something that I'm glad you brought up, Bruce, because listening to Trav speak
That's
sometime, I'm like,
interesting.
I'm on board. Let's do it. T. Higgins for the win.
But
that's
now
good
there's
to bring up.
statistics that go against me.
Oh
Those
man,
damn
I
statistics, man.
just had to take a look at it. It was scary to look at.
Listen, when I make predictions, I make them based off of vibes, man. I'm not looking at stats.
Hey,
All right.
Me too.
That's
Me
what
too.
that's
I'm not
what we're
a
here to
numbers
give
guy.
you. That's
I'm
what
not
we're
a
here to
number
give you. We're
guy.
here to give you the
know.
vibes.
Jay-Z
Speaking about
said-
vibes, speaking about these vibes, let's look a little bit more in depth to week 2 and our top projected receivers, quarterback, running backs, things of that nature. Since we're on receivers, we're talking about receivers now. T. Higgins is projected to be the 16th receiver, receiver 16 next week against Baltimore, but still the efficiency has been used for him, as we learned from last year and this year, has been bad. But our top 5 people, of course, number 1 on the list is going to be our guy, Tyreek Hill again. Tua has never lost to the Patriots. Look for another high-scoring game, I believe, this week, Sunday night, with Tua and Tyreek Hill. Number 2, we just spoke about him tonight, Justin Jefferson. He looks like the number 2 receiver. That's what the projections have him going. Number 3, Jamar Chase. 4, Amar St. Brown. And number 5, Stephon Diggs. These are guys, all these guys are projected this way because that's where they were supposed to be. That's where we drafted these guys at, to be top 5 receivers. With those names on the list, guys, how are you feeling? Some of these guys, besides the Jefferson we already spoke about a little earlier, and Tyreek Hill, who's just an animal, he's a machine, he's unguardable at this point. Some of these other guys, do you think anybody should be higher that is not in this top 5 list?
So was Jamar Chase in there?
He's number 3.
He's number 3. Okay, yeah. I think after the 8.9 game, I think he gets some points as well. I think it's going to be a T. Higgins, Jamar Chase type of week in Cincinnati.
Okay.
Maybe Joe Mixon sneaks in there as well as in the running game. But someone that I think we should talk about a little more and that deserves respect in that top 5. Now, I'm not sure if he'll do it again this week, but I'm all aboard the Brandon Ayuk hype train right now. I think that he is Brock Purdy's go-to guy. It's a good matchup this week against the Los Angeles Rams, even though they played good defense against those Seattle Seahawks wide receivers. I just think the 49ers skill group is different. Seattle doesn't have a Christian McCaffrey that allows the passing game to be opened up as well, the way San Fran obviously does with the actual Christian McCaffrey. And Brock Purdy's just extremely efficient. So I think Brandon Ayuk is going to be able to get some real work in on those Los Angeles Rams corners. I don't know if top 5, maybe fringe top 5, like top 6, 7. I think we could
Ayuk
give
currently
Brandon Ayuk
projected to get in PPR leagues around 14.5 points. Once again, that's fine from a receiver of his nature that is usually going to give you maybe 8 or 9, or he's usually projected for 8 and 9. But after his last week's performance, we have him projected at 14.5 points against the Los Angeles Rams, which I think also is a great matchup. What about you, Bruce? Anybody besides Hill, Jefferson, Chase, St. Brown, or Diggs that should be in that top 5 that maybe showed out last week, maybe didn't show out last week, and he's going to get some love?
I'm gonna go with. I have to go with. I think AJ Brown's gonna crack that, but more so, I think DJ Metcalf. He didn't get much love this week. I think last week. I think this week he'll look for more catches and see
Metcalf in the
with
same
him.
area. He's about projected about 14.5, same as Ayuk. So you guys are in the same area. These guys just should be a little higher. For me, it's a name there that I think is missing from this very strongly, and that's Calvin Ridley. He's showing that he is who he said he was. He hasn't missed a beat. He hasn't missed a step. Currently projected to be receiver 7. Projected to be around 17 points. I want him up there in the top 5. He's going to be bumped up a little bit. Not much, but he's gonna bump up a little bit. He is playing the Chiefs. The Chiefs got some defensive players back. Chris Jones, correct?
Yep,
Came
Chris
back,
Jones back in the building.
signed his contract. So it's gonna be a little different, and Kansas City is gonna be a little. That's definitely gonna be a vengeful game for them because they're gonna say, "Hey, that Detroit was a fluke. We're gonna try to do what we got to do."
Oh,
and
Yeah.
so they're gonna try to prove a point. But Calvin Ridley, if you've seen him in off season and the videos they were releasing him, and he's just so quick, he's just so fast. He's like a mini Tyreek Hill when you see him in camp, and I think he's gonna continue putting up points this year. And like I said, currently ranked at 7 for projection wise. I think we're gonna see him a little above that.
So you're looking at the weekly projections right now for week 2?
Correct.
Can you find Drake London's name for me, please? Because I'm really interested to see how Atlanta bounces back. I mean, they won, right? So there's
Drake
no
London's
quote-unquote bounce
currently
back.
projected for 11 points, receiver 34.
Eesh, yeah. I mean, I would love to see them kind of forcefully get him back on track, like a situation where you spent a top 10 draft pick on this dude a couple years ago in the real NFL draft. If you're the Atlanta Falcons, same goes for Kyle Pitts. Like they have 2 unicorns
Don't
at
get me
their
started
respective
with
positions,
Pitts.
wide
Ugh.
receiver and tight end. Drake London had 0 catches on 1 target in week 1. Your first round wide receiver from a couple years ago should not be only getting 1 target.
All right.
It doesn't make sense. I don't care if you plan on being a run heavy team. Plenty of teams. I'll go back to a couple years ago with Tennessee before AJ Brown was traded to Philly. He was on Tennessee. They were still producing a top wide receiver talent in AJ Brown while forcefully feeding Derrick Henry. I understand you have 2 of these guys, but they combined for 25 carries in week 1, Algier and Bijan. Derrick Henry gets that in his sleep, 25 carries. I mean,
Right.
Nobody runs their back into the ground like Tennessee, but they were still able to support AJ Brown. And it's the same offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. So what are we doing not getting Drake
Excellent
London
point.
involved? I
Excellent
think
point.
I think he's somebody that they need to go out of their way to forcefully get involved. And I believe they had a meeting together, the offense, Kyle Pitts, Desmond Ridder, and Drake London. And Kyle Pitts came back to Twitter and he tweeted comeback player of the year. Like he got some stuff off his chest and now he thinks he's about to go off. That's cool. But can Drake London get some of that love too?
We'll see. That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
A player that was projected a little higher for week 1, and you can't get better. I mean, you can't get any worse than 0, unless unless in a PPR league, he caught the ball and immediately fumbled. I mean, there's you can't get worse than 0. So yeah, Drake London's definitely someone to look at. Moving off receivers, moving over to our RBs. Here's our top 5 projected players for week 2. 1, Christian McCaffrey. 2, Saquon Barkley. 3, Nick Chubb. 4, Bijan. And number 5, Tony Pollard. Since I have you up on the screen right now, Trav, let's go right into it. What's a name on that list that maybe shouldn't be there, or one that should be a little higher?
I know I just said Tony Pollard is a bit matchup proof, but I don't know about a top 5 finish against this Jets defense. I think it's going to be not a tough one, but that defense is tough. They don't give up a lot on the ground. James Cook got involved as a pass catcher more than as an actual runner. He was more of a threat in that way.
True.
So I think that's where Tony Pollard makes his living. But I don't think Tony Pollard scores 2 touchdowns like he did last week. Maybe just 1. But they're still going to keep him involved. I'm just not sure it's worthy of a top 5 finish this week.
Okay, so you have him bumped a little bit out of that top 5. That's a good point. I mean, listen, once again, not being biased here, the Jets played a very good defense last week, and I think that's going to translate into this week as well. I think that's an excellent point. For me, I think that list is about right. I think we're going to get those 5 guys in there. So I'm going to say who's going to be a little bit outside that list. And for me, I'm looking at ATN to get a little bit more love this week. Just to show once again, I know I just spoke about Ridley, but once again, I like that offense, and I think he's gonna get a little bit more love this week against Kansas City. Even though they got Chris Jones back, they're gonna try to utilize him because They need to. They don't have a choice. I'm not saying top 5 because I think that top 5 is about right, but I can see him sitting right outside the top 5. He's currently projected for 15 points. That's kind of where I have him projected at. But in PPR league formats, just to clarify, I just have him a little higher than that. 2 names on this list that are a little higher than him right now: Derrick Henry and Eckler, which once again, I believe these RB rankings is pretty solid in my opinion. What about you, Bruce?
Well, no, I was thinking ETN, but I was just as far as he's gonna basically they used David Montgomery last week. He got a lot of touches,
Right.
and David Montgomery is not ETN. I feel like ETN is
Right.
a better back. So I think that
Oh, for sure, for sure.
definitely he should get a bump this weekend. I'm honestly hoping it's more so because I'm an owner, but no,
Right.
Kenneth, Kenneth Walker to just play a
Right.
little
That's a good
more,
point.
get some more production out of him. They play Detroit, so I don't know how that's gonna pan out because
Yeah.
that I mean, then again, Pacheco, they're not really these great backs. So Kansas City's backfield to me is not as good as Seattle's.
Yeah, of
Kansas
So
course.
City's backfield is looking like a real committee now.
so
Mhm.
So
I'm hoping that Walker gets bumped up
okay.
in the stats. I mean, obviously we're gonna have Eckler bumped down. We're gonna see if Aaron Jones could continue, even though he's dealing with the hamstring.
Right.
And
Kenneth Walker's a good one. Currently ranked that are projected to rank at RB 12. And you
yeah.
brought up Detroit, so I want to bring that up as well. I think that backfield, don't be weary this week of them. They showed that they want to run the ball. They showed that both of them are going to get some love. Expect Gibbs to break 1 or 2 this week. He was very close to doing it last week. Expect him
Yeah.
to break 1 or 2 this week. Expect him to give you a little bit of points. And Montgomery as well. He saw the efficiency there. He saw the carries. Expects some average points there. Nothing to be weary about. Nothing to go crazy about. But don't be scared of that backfield. I think it's going to be something similar to what they're doing in Atlanta with the rookie over there as well with Bijan. I think it's something, the entire backfield itself, to look forward to. They're currently ranked at 14 and 15 projected for week 2.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good comparison. The usage in Atlanta compared to Detroit. I like that.
And I feel like with Gibbs and Bijan, I feel like both teams have veteran backs in a sense,
Mm.
where they wanted to put a test drive. They just took them for a test drive, see
Good
how
point.
full
Right.
game will feel for them. But I think they're gonna see more production coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
One more running back I want to touch on real quick. He only had 1.9 fantasy points throughout 3 quarters of play last week, but then in the fourth quarter really turned it up and ended up finishing with 13.4. Ramondre Stevenson. I think if New England wants any chance at winning this game against Miami, they're gonna have to keep the ball out of Tua's hands, and that is immediately and directly linked to Ramondre Stevenson running the ball effectively, milking the clock, extending drives, and helping New England get touchdowns. I want to see Ramondre put up top 10 numbers this week, only because I think that that's a game that kind of entails that in the script. I think he could be an effective pass catcher. And like I said, if they want to keep the ball out of the hottest quarterback in the league right now hands, it's 1 week, granted, but who's stopping Tua and Tyreek? That offense is ridiculous. So I think Ramondre needs to kind of be that focal point on offense for New England if they want to have any chance at winning that game. So I think he could turn in. I'll call my shot and say he could break 20 this week. I think I like that for Ramondre.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I
Excellent point.
that's one that I was a little upset for that they didn't like. I understand, man, that you guys signed Elliott, but Zeke was basically back in Dallas, bro. He's still fumbling the ball.
Yeah, don't get me
Like,
started. I don't want to talk about that guy.
and so like,
Sorry
but
if
the
you
good
drafted
thing
him.
about Stevenson is he's getting the targets.
Right.
And PPR, that's something that we're looking at. But I really feel like they didn't need to do this. They really didn't.
No.
Ty Montgomery is good enough back there to come in for Stevenson.
Yeah.
I just don't know what
Right.
they were going for when they have an elite back in Stevenson. Like,
No, yeah,
so
it's an excellent point, and it's also an excellent segue going to our QBs projections for next week. Our top 2 QBs last week were Tua and Mac Jones. So, Mac Jones, a lot of people didn't think about it because they put New England so low. 316 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 25 points last week. We know what Tua did. We gave him his flowers last week. So let's talk a little bit more about Mac Jones this week. He is not currently ranked very high as in projections.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine so.
No. But I'm saying, why isn't he? I know it was Herbert on the other end last week, but a lot of points were given up in that game. I think it was like 63 points. What the end points of the
36 to 34, so like 70 total.
Right.
That's a lot.
Why isn't he ranked a little bit higher? But let's go ahead with our top 5. Top 5 projected players, fantasy PPR, week 2 for QBs. Number 1 tonight, Jalen Hurts. Number 2, the comeback game for Josh Allen after a terrible game 1 for him. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes against Jacksonville. Number 4, Herbert's up there. Number 5, Trevor Lawrence. No Tua in this top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start it off and say he's going to be in this top 5.
I
think the guys right now, he's healthy and he's just too good. So he's ranked number 10. Push him up. Push him in top 5. Don't be scared for Tua. I'll admittedly say I didn't start him last week. I have him in a league. I started Kirk Cousins over him. Kirk Cousins gave me in the league I was a part of, gets a half point for every completion and a half point deducted for every incompletion. So Kirk Cousins ended up working out for me anyways. He didn't score too much away from Tua. But this week, Tua is in my starting lineup. I'm not playing Kirk Cousins tonight. Tua's my guy as for my fantasy team in that league right now.
Yeah.
And he should be yours too. As long as he's healthy, he's an easy start every week. Push him up to the top 5. He's currently projected at number 10. Trav, how you feeling?
Yeah, I think depending on who your QB1 is, because let's face it, most people didn't draft Tua to be QB1, but he just landed right in your lap. So
yeah,
depending on who your QB1 is, if the matchup doesn't seem favorable, like you just said, with Kirk Cousins going against the Philadelphia defense, I'm throwing Tua in there and I'm not thinking twice about it. In fact, there may be somebody out there that just lost Aaron Rodgers that could use a guy like Kirk Cousins while you promote a guy like Tua Tagovailoa. So
exactly, and to go more on that point, if you have that type of setup, I have Tua and Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Try trading one. Maybe you could get. Maybe you're lacking in another area. I don't suggest in trading Tua, but if you have another strong, because like Trav just mentioned, more than likely you drafted him late. And I can say, even as a Jet fan, on draft night when I saw Tua on the board in some of the late rounds, I was sitting there like, I have to grab him here, don't I? I mean, when he was healthy, he was it. So that's an excellent point, Trav.
Yeah.
What about you, Bruce?
If I could just touch on that, Tua last week, Hurts didn't have the best week, but this offense is a way faster offense. So I think that Tua is going to continue with this trend. I think he's just gonna. This is a faster offense. The Patriots defense is a good defense, but I just feel like this is a really fast offense, and Tua is really in his bag. Like he's in his bag.
It's hard to bet against him right now, especially we understand that at the other end you have Bill Belichick and New England. They're good at disguising stuff. So on defense, so I understand how you're kind of like, but Tua, maybe they have that right projected at number 10. Listen, when Tua's healthy, Tua has never lost to the New England Patriots. Start him over a lot of these guys, over a lot of them.
All right. I mean, they played the first game last season. Tua was healthy. Tua was in the game.
Right.
Tua threw for 270 yards and a touchdown. He had 14 points that game.
No interceptions?
No interceptions, but did have a fumble.
Listen, 14 points doesn't sound all great, but you're going to see more now. Tua is tired of people talking about him, tired of saying that he can't throw that ball. Tyreek Hill is in for his $2,000 season. I ain't buying it. It's gonna happen. And I never wish bad upon any player. Hopefully he stays healthy the whole season. He's gonna be a problem. They're gonna be scary. Fantasy gold. You heard it first. Fantasy Gold. Go ahead and comment. It's a big game, Sunday night, primetime game. Tua against New England. Does Tua get his first loss? Or does he give us another excellent game, 400+ yard game? Do we see another 200-yard game from Tyreek Hill? Or we're going to spread the ball a little bit more. Go ahead and comment now. Over under for Tua on yards, 320. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, but I'm saying it because I believe it.
Yeah. You're looking at the quarterback projections. Where's Justin Fields projected to finish this week?
Justin Fields is currently projected as.
Oh, he's not bad.
Why do I have to scroll down? No, I'm kidding. Number 8. He's projected as number 8. They're giving him a B+ this week. They're saying at 18 points.
Yeah, I think that's baking in his rushing value because as a thrower, once again, I know he threw the touchdown to Darnell Mooney, but if you watch that game in its entirety, once again, there was nothing there as a passer. He was drafted in that 4th, 5th round range in fantasy drafts. And it wasn't because of his arm. It wasn't because he got DJ Moore now. It's because of what he did as a rusher last year, right? So I think he should be in for a bounce back week. He only had 10 points in week 1 against the Green Bay Packers. I would hope that they get him involved with his legs more and he finds more opportunities in scramble drill situations to use his legs, get some of that rushing value that we coveted when we drafted him. Because 10 points is just not going to cut it for a guy that you probably drafted so high.
No, it's a excellent point. He's going very high. And Tampa Bay, I thought they were going to give Kirk Cousins a freebie last week, but it wasn't. It was definitely difficult. Justin Fields is definitely a different quarterback than Kirk Cousins, but still something to look at.
Yeah.
Somebody that I'm looking at is Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones will have a bounce back game against Arizona.
He better.
He has to. I need it. No, but I'm saying it more so because he didn't look. I have to say he didn't look terrible against Dallas. That line, he just didn't have no protection. So like he was still trying to make passes. He wasn't like. Oh man, how could I say it? He was running for his life, dude. He was running for his life, but I honestly feel like he's gonna have a bounce back week against Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, he got sacked 7 times last week. Dude.
I mean, how much do you hate your starting quarterback that you just gave 160 million to leave him in there? I understand letting people sit in their own stink for a while, but it's week 1, dude. Protect your guy. Like he was in there getting crushed with 7 minutes left in the 4th, down 40 to zip. And it's like, what's the point?
Right.
What's the message you're trying to send?
Yeah. So I got him getting right this week. I don't know about the week after that. They play San Fran week 3. So that's brutal. So for me, this is more like I need you now. I literally picked up Jordan Love off the waivers. Like I had to pick somebody up because it's just I need to see what you do this weekend, and I possibly got to move on. I probably got to move on. They don't have easy games coming up. They got Arizona this week, then they got San Francisco, you got Seattle, which maybe that's a good game for you, but then you got Miami, Buffalo, Washington, the Jets. Might be a rough one.
Lineup. Yeah,
for that line.
Lineup. No,
yeah, so
it's what we're here for. Once again, we're here to tell you who to be weary of, who you should feel good about, who you should maybe consider trade block, or replacements. It's something to definitely look at. But once again, I would love and like to repeat 20 week 2. So I'll calm down, see what we have, and reevaluate in a few weeks. Going on to tight ends. Top tight end right now, as long as he's playing, Travis Kelce. Number 2.
Playing.
Number 2, Hawkinson. Number 3, Darren Waller. Number 3, sorry. I had to make sure I was reading that correctly. Darren Waller, 0 points from the Giants last week, but he's ranked as number 3 tight end against Arizona. I get it a little bit. Number 4, Mark Andrews. Once again, as long as he's healthy and he's playing. And number 5, George Kittle. I'm not at all a tight end guru. Every time I make a tight end my factor for the week, they embarrass me and they make me never want to talk about tight ends again. So I am not going to start this one. Who wants to take this one? Top 5, Kittle. Sorry, Kelsey, Hawkinson, Waller, Andrews, and Kittle. How you feeling about that list?
I yeah, go ahead. I'll let you start. I'll let you start because I have an
Hey,
opinion.
listen, that was the perfect way to start the tight end.
All right,
I'm done talking about them.
all right. So Kelsey,
But we got
Kelsey,
to. For you, the viewers, we have to.
Kelsey was back in practice. He was moving around, jumping around. They showed a clip of him moving around, jumping around, and he looks like he's back. So I'm expecting him to come back. I have no problems with that. Mark Andrews, Darren Waller is a big question mark. It's only week 2. He's already taking vet days.
Yeah,
He's taking rest days. I don't know how long he's going to be able to keep going until something gives or until he. Remember, the Giants don't have a bye week till week 13.
yeah,
So
It's a lot of resting.
I could understand Brees Hall having rest days after having such a big game. You get sore after coming back from such an injury. But for
Yeah.
Waller to already be having vet days this early in the season, it's gonna question what's gonna happen going later on, especially when there's no bye week in sight.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's gonna be a sustainable top 5 tight end.
Yeah,
on
that's
that
exactly
note.
where I was going when we both did our little. It was all about Darren Waller. I
Yeah.
mean, look, the hammy is not fun. The hammy at 30 years old is not fun. The fact that it's only week 2 and it started before week 1, like, how intense were you practicing, bro, that you ended up tweaking your hamstring prior to the week 1 game? A tight end that I'd much rather see in the top 5 and that I think will finish top 5 after a donut in week 1 is Dallas Goedert. I think he deserves to be in there, especially with a matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. I have no faith in Darren Waller, honestly. I need to see him remain healthy. I need to see this Giants offense get into the flow of things. Arizona would be the perfect opportunity to do such. And I'm
Mhm.
still not that confident that it happens for Darren Waller, at least. I think you get a better game out of Saquon. Should get a better game out of Daniel Jones if you are still starting him. I don't know how to feel. I don't know what to project when it comes to Darren Waller. All I know is this is a player that I actively avoided in drafts because of this scare, and now it's here, and it's here a lot earlier than anticipated. So Darren
Mhm.
Waller, I don't think is worthy of being ranked in the top 5 this week. I'd much rather see a guy like Dallas Goedert in there.
Yeah, I had to double check that I had the right list. I had to double check to see if I needed glasses because I didn't understand why his name was up there. But I'll give you a name that it should be an easy one. Don't fail me. Should be an easy one. So should be in this top 5. Was our tight end one last week, Hunter Henry. We know New England likes to use their tight ends. He should see a little bit of love. He's currently projected as tight end 11 with 5 points. In a PPR format, especially, I believe that should be a little higher. He should definitely be a little higher. Sorry, in PPR formats, he's projected for 9 points. Standard 5 points, but still, it should be a little higher. They like to use their tight ends. They're gonna have to throw the ball a lot because they're probably gonna be trailing against this Miami team.
Right.
I like Hunter Henry a little bit higher on that list.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, especially if you're streaming tight end options. If you're annoyed with Darren Waller and you picked up Hunter Henry, why not right now? So I like
Yep.
that name, Hunter Henry, for sure.
Sam Laporta is another name that you look
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
for. Hot and
They're giving him some love, yeah.
heavy usage. Kyle Pitts, man. Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts. You throw me the ball, bro. Throw me the ball.
Dude,
One that concerns me because they're kind of close together is Kincaid and
Okay.
Dawson Knox.
hmm
That's a weird one for me because they kind of close to each other on the rankings. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Tight end is scary, dude.
It's tough, and
year,
it's weird in
every
Buffalo
year.
because last year didn't they give Dawson Knox a 4-year, like $53 million contract extension, and then the very next draft they go and draft a tight end. I understand they say
Yeah.
that he's he's used as a big slot wide receiver type, But at the end of the day, how feasible is putting them both on the field together? They say that's something that they want to do. I don't like it for that style of offense. It's very run and gun, vertical, down the field stuff for Josh Allen. I think if I had to pick one, I'd rather have Kincaid at this point, just because, yeah, you gave this guy 4 years, $53 million, but every contract has an out baked into it at some point. Maybe it's after this year, maybe it's after next year with Dawson. You spent the first round pick on Dalton Kincaid. You better make it work. So he's kind of the one in Buffalo that I'd rather have. But yeah, it is interesting that they're still ranked so close together.
No, that's an excellent point. Speaking about people that we rather had, I'm going to jump right into it. And Bruce, you're on the screen, so let's give you all the love. What are our factors of this week looking like? Who's your guy that's you like, that you think he's going to give us some love? Maybe he didn't give us a lot of love last week, but this week he's going to be a factor.
One that he gave us some love last week. I mean, he rode my bench, but I'm sure some people
so not enough love. He wasn't good enough to make your starting lineup.
No, not last week, but this week I'm thinking about him. I got Nico Collins of the Texans. Noah Brown was placed on a short-term IR, so that means 4 weeks minimum. He's out.
Okay.
Out of the 3 receivers over there, so you had Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Noah Brown. Collins was getting most of the targets. Now you're down 1 receiver. He's probably going to get more targets. Like, that there's more upside. Now, Tank Dell does have a little upside, but he was only targeted 4 times as well last week too. Right. So Nico was getting all the looks. So
yeah, Nico says here, 11 targets. That's huge value. Huge value.
Yeah,
so, I mean, only 6 out of 11. He only brought in 6 out of 11.
Right.
But I like the 11 exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we look like. That's what we look at when we're looking at fantasy players. We're looking at the volume. Maybe 1 week they had an off week, but we're looking at the volume. Getting looked at 11 times is huge for fantasy value. So I think that's an excellent factor. So week. What about you? What about you, Trav?
For me, I'm going with Christian Kirk in Jacksonville against Kansas City this week. Calvin Ridley had his week last week. It was kind of expected that they were going to do everything they could to get him the ball. Christian Kirk suffered from all that getting the ball to Calvin Ridley last week. 1 catch for 9 yards. Yeah, 1.9 fantasy points last week. Projected for 12.55 this week. I think that it's likely that he can hit that projection. Christian Kirk he's very talented. He was Trevor Lawrence's wide receiver 1 last year. There's opportunity for a shootout in Kansas City. Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown had a big game. Calvin Ridley had a big game last week. I think that love kind of continues to spread in Jacksonville, and I want to say Christian Kirk is going to go beyond his 12.55 projection this week.
Okay, I believe that's another good one. I'll be honest. I believe it's a scary one. There's a lot of offensive weapons over there, and Kirk just wasn't that guy for Lawrence last week. So it is a scary one for me, especially as a Kirk owner. I have to start him because I am dealing with some injuries. I have Kupp, I have Deontay Johnson, so Kirk's in my lineup, not by choice. Yeah. So I'm gonna hold you to that one. But it's a good factor because there is definitely a lot of upside. I believe in that. For me, I'm gonna go off the receivers a little bit. You guys gave us some pretty good receivers to look at. I'm going for a running back who saw a lot of love, I wouldn't say a lot of targets, but he was looked at a lot and used a lot, right? He was getting 6 targets. He had 4 receptions of those targets. He only gave us 10 points last week, and he carried the ball about 12 times for 46 yards. I'm talking about James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. He was Josh Allen's scapegoat. He kept kept throwing him the ball. He got all the checkdowns, and he was seeing them a lot. Only 10 points last week. I see a little against Vegas. I see a little bit more looks, a little bit more points. James Cook's going to be my factor. Projected for 10 points in PPR leagues. I have him at least a touchdown next week. I'm going to say it like 15, 16 points I'm looking at. So he's projected a little low in my opinion. I believe he's going to be a huge factor next week, especially against Vegas and a Bills team that they have to win. with Tua and the Dolphins right now as AFC's favorites, and the Bills are supposed to be the favorites, and losing to the Jets after they lost their guy. You still got a loss on the board by the Jets. This team has to win. He's going to get a lot of love next week.
Yeah, I like that one. James Cook looked pretty efficient week 1, Monday Night Football. I think that he's in for a big year, or a bigger year than anticipated, at least.
Okay. Well, Trev, who is not in for a big week too? Who is your actor? Who's just playing silly out there?
Yeah, my actor plays tonight, and it's going to be Alexander Madison of the Minnesota Vikings, running back. He had 13.40 fantasy points against Tampa Bay, good enough for an RB17 finish this week, but he's got a tough matchup. Like I said, his starting center, Garrett Bradbury, is out this week. He had 11 carries for 34 yards in week 1, and then 3 catches for 10 yards. But the most interesting thing to me, in a backfield that he was kind of assumed to completely take over with Dalvin Cook gone, he only saw 73% of the snaps out of that backfield for Minnesota. And that was interesting to me because we saw David Montgomery, who's in an actual committee with Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to take touches away from David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs eventually is going to get his going. David Montgomery saw 79% of the snaps, and that's someone that's in a committee.
Right.
Alexander Madison, we did not anticipate being in a committee, and he only saw 73%. So that's a bit worrisome for me. And I think that the game script tonight is not in their favor. I think Philadelphia is going to jump on them early, get a touchdown on their first drive, touching the ball, could possibly even go up 14-zip. Like, it could be one of those ugly games. Minnesota didn't look good against Tampa Bay. Philadelphia is not Tampa Bay. Like, this could be a very dark matchup for a lot of fantasy relevant players, and that's what I'm predicting for Alexander Madison tonight.
That's a rough one for me to hear as a Madison owner.
Madison,
prepare for a single digit night, baby.
Oof.
Oh man,
projected PPR 13 points. Travis saying he's gonna be under 10. He ain't gonna see single the doubles. Digits. He ain't gonna see the doubles. If he get 9.99, Trav's still a winner. What about you, Bruce? Who's acting on your sheet over there?
Anthony Richardson.
Had
a good week last week, but he's dealing with a knee.
Week last week. Excellent
week, but now he's dealing with a knee. He's dealing with a little knee issue, so I don't know if he's gonna be running around like he was last week. Last week, he had a rushing touchdown.
Right.
He ran 10 times for 40 yards.
Paid for it.
He paid for it.
And
he sacked 4 times.
That's the rookie in him, right? Because I was watching that game on Red Zone, and I also went back and watched the highlights just to do a little bit of research on him. And he's putting the shoulder down. He reminds me. I said it last week. He reminds me of Cam Newton, which is all good. It's all dandy. If that's his style of playing, he needs to be cleaned up. He needs to be coached a little bit.
He got clapped on that goal line for sure.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
for sure. So I just don't know if he's going to put up the same numbers this week against Houston. I'm just
21 points last week. Very good for a rookie quarterback. Bruce saying Houston it ain't going to happen this week.
Houston put a multi-million-dollar quarterback in a box last week.
I was about to just say, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson didn't have a good day. 4 sacks, interception, and I think he fumbled, right?
Yeah.
He
might have, yeah.
All at the hands of Houston's defense. Like, so.
Yeah, they were surprisingly much better than anticipated.
Yeah, the rookie's going to come out, man. I mean, the rookie's welcome to the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, you thought you had your welcome to the NFL moment last week. This week, you better not try running that ball with that knee like that.
They probably are not going to allow him to, but in all these rookies' minds, they feel like they can make stuff happen. I agree with you. I see mistakes being made. Once again, 21 points projected. Bruce has him under that. My actor, he's going to remain an actor. He was clowning us last week. I believe he's going to clown us this week as well. Not much his fault, but maybe it is. Maybe he's just not showing the strength in practice. It's somebody that Trav likes next week. I do not. Drake London. He got 1 target last week. Do I think it's going to be more than that this week? I absolutely do. I think it's still going to be terrible.
2?
Guess it's still going to be terrible. Last week, we're talking about what the points they put on the board for us last week, and if they're going to do better or worse. He's going to do better than 0 points. I'll give you that much. It still ain't going to be it. He is my actor for week 2, and there's not much to talk about besides the fact that offense over there is clearly on their running backs. They're clearly running heavy with the ball. They're clearly giving them the loves in the pass catching. Drake London, hopefully I'm wrong because I want him to do good. But 1 target, it's not looking brutal. Good to me. It's not looking good to me.
Why Desmond Ritter's picture looks like he's going to ask me for $1 coming out the gas station?
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Poppy, you got $1. But listen, man, he had 18 attempts for 15 completions, 115 yards, man. That's rough for a quarterback, man.
I mean, highly efficient, just not good for your wide receivers.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Not good for Kyle Pitts, not good for Drake London.
And if I'm not mistaken, I know Atlanta was playing a Carolina team, but they won last week, right?
Atlanta won, yeah.
1 target, and they still got the W. It ain't happening. Drake London,
it's
you're
not
an
changing.
Head coach
Bijan out here, baby.
I know.
Are an actor,
dude. Head coach Arthur Smith came out and said Drake London and Kyle Pitts aren't worried about their production. They're worried about winning, and we got the win.
Yeah, dude. Elijah Moore said that once.
Be for real, man.
Yeah, these kids ain't come to the league not to be competitors.
And I get it. Listen, I get it. But we're here to tell you, as Trav said earlier, the vibes. We're here to give you the vibes. We're here to tell you how we feel and what's gonna happen because it's us, the Real Deal League podcast. Before we head out today,
before we head out, let us know how you guys feel about our factors.
Exactly. I want you guys in the comments to give us your factor and actor. Who do you think is not going to do as good, and who do you think is going to kill it out there? And out of Bruce, Trav, and myself, our factors and actors, pick one that you think is going to be on the top of the list. Comment right now down below in the comments.
Comment why I'm right. Comment why they're wrong.
Exactly. But I do want to hear yours. Let me hear your factors and actors. We were talking about implementing guests. Maybe we get one of the viewers on here. Maybe somebody from the Real Deal League, Fantasy Football League that I'm the commission of. We're going to get some love here. It's going to get more fun. It's going to get more wild here at the Real Deal League podcast. Anything else before we leave, fellas?
Nope. That about wraps it up. Looking forward to another great week of football, man.
Tonight game, Eagles versus Vikings. Get your lineup ready. Get it set before tonight's game.
Yep.
Thursday night games better be good again.
Oh, man.
Make Thursday night good again.
Make Thursday night good again. We'll be here for you. Listen, during tonight's game, make sure you're commenting. Make sure you're hitting us up on all our socials. We love you. We out.
If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. If you looking for the truth, then I'm the real deal. Shout out to the crew and they get real. Find me with the crew, nigga, real deal. You not on the team, boy, you on the bench. You not in my league, how I'm on your neck. Hey, I heard you working out, please don't hurt yourself. My pockets by the flex, your pockets gotta stretch. Okay, don't talk too much and Bruce go at your chest.